So, Jack, welcome to the MotoGP podcast Last on the Brakes. As I was just telling you, I hope I remember the title, what I'm doing, how this all works. Welcome back from summer break. It's a pleasure to have you here. We're going to start with the easiest question of all, which was, how was your summer? It's been a bit of a weird, longer one this year. You feeling chill?
Yeah, feeling good. Summer here, winter in Australia. But,
oh yeah, of course. So
it was warmer winter in Australia than it has been summer here, I feel. No, yeah, it's been real nice. Nice to go home, nice to see the family. Yeah, just been normal for a bit.
Exactly right. A little bit of more space to disconnect this season than sometimes. But it looks like you've been extremely busy. Maybe even more physically active than riding a MotoGP bike with the stuff you've been building. What have you been up to? And is it finished?
Yeah, definitely been preoccupied. That's for certain. No, yeah, beginning of the summer break, we you know, put in a decent stint. We solid 2.5 weeks of building. Fortunate enough with the support of Cat and Cat Rental, we were able to sort of make a dream of mine come true. I've always grown up with.
See, that's smart sponsorship.
You like that?
Because everyone wins there.
Exactly, exactly. You know, I always grew up with a motocross track in the backyard, essentially, on the farm, and to finally sort of be able to go big and get the amount of dirt that we needed and put the effort in with the track builder and yeah, make sort of a dream come true. It's was unreal. You know, a lot of work. I want to say more than I expected, but at the end of the day, it was so satisfying to see it all come together, and then of course ride the track.
I was going to say,
everything's done, and
you've done some laps now.
Done plenty of laps. I ended up putting about nearly, I think, 18 hours on the 450. So KTM will be getting one handed back, and hopefully get a new one for the next time I get home. But no, it's been good, and we've got a lot of content to sort of come out of that. We were kind of holding back, like I got a lot of stuff filmed and so on, but we did a little bit of filming with it just to sort of show the process and everything. So just trying to make it as big of a splash as we can. So waiting on the video guys now to edit it all up and get it all out to you guys.
That sounds cool then, because it looked exciting enough just seeing some stills of you and like obviously building it yourself as well.
Yeah.
How many of you have done it? How many people were you?
Well, my dad, fortunately
I love it. It's like such a normal person kind of thing, you know what I mean? For a MotoGP rider, I mean, most of you are normal. You're one of the realists for sure. You've just gone home and built a motocross track with your dad. Yeah,
so Dad, I mean, he was I want to say the backbone of the whole show. He jumped in that D6 and was pushing dirt for, I think, like 10 days straight, just keeping up to the trucks. We were just running dirt back and forward. I think we ended up using like 20,000 tonne of dirt, and yeah, it's a big hole. And you know, he was up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. I can see sort of the track through the farm from my window, from my bedroom window, and I'd hear the clack of the track sort of going up, and these lights coming out of the hole, and he was down there every morning at 4 o'clock just sort of getting a stockpile going for us to then run out throughout the day and like keep dirt to us throughout the day. But him, and then had another couple of boys come up from down in Melbourne. One's Josh from Pro Tracks, who's a professional track builder, and definitely has a lot more experience of that sort of stuff than we do, and does a fantastic job finishing the track off and so on. And then another one is Alex Quinn, and then just a heap of my mates pretty much. I mean, another young fella from down the road who races motocross. I mean, he's 14 years old, and we had him in a truck flat.
You must have made his life.
Yeah, he was loving it. So yeah, well, I constantly using his motocross track, so now I can return the favour. But yeah, and then just heap of the boys, whoever we could sort of get around. We were just trying to keep people in trucks, you know. And then my nephew Tex, he's nearly 2. He'll be 2 in December, and he spent a bit of time. He spent a bit of time in the truck in the second seat next to me.
Well, okay, that's a good segue. I'll go from there. We'll see if you post any lap records. We want to see leaderboards. We want to really stay on top of this project.
Yeah, righto.
But you are at quite a good crossroads in your life now. Everything's come together so much for you. Not only you seem super chill with KTM. We'll talk about that obviously in the racing side of it. You've also got Ruby, family, about to expand. You just seem like you're in the best moment ever.
Yeah, I mean, I keep getting older and older. I read the other day, I think it was like Crash.net or something, put something out, and I was referred to as an Australian veteran at 28. So
I mean,
I read it and it kind of hurt, but then I was kind of proud to sort of have that one against me. But no, it's yeah, definitely I feel like I'm getting better. I know what to expect. I don't get flustered as much or get stressed as much. You know, of course, I still take this job as serious as I ever did, but you know, with the experience that you gain and the time that you spend doing this, you sort of become comfortable being uncomfortable, kind of thing. And even now, you know, after 5 weeks off, I sort of know what I'm coming into, and just that. Whereas a younger me would be a lot more stressed at this point in time. You know, 5 weeks off, how am I going to go, whatever. You know how you're going to go. You sort of know what's going to happen, and you know how the bike's going to feel, and also just trusting my ability in terms of riding the bike and where I'm at with the bike and how I feel with the bike. So, no, I feel good. And then, like you say, on the family side of things as well, it's just amazing. You know, I'm so lucky to have Ruby and to be able to do this job with her by my side. And then, I mean, it's going to be tough sort of the next month. This is her last race until the baby comes along. I think its first race back will be, fingers crossed, Phillip Island.
Okay.
So,
I mean, at least that's a bit of an easier commute.
Yeah, exactly, an easier commute. So we'll test the waters at Phillip Island, and then fingers crossed I can jump on the tour from there on till the end. And then, and yeah, but you know, she's going to go back now after this one and be back there for a month. So that's going to be a tough slog, but I'll rock up the day before the birth and pretend like I've been there the whole time, and then.
Do you think you'll get away with that?
Yeah, I should be right. But and then hang around for a few days and then head off to India.
Yeah, then it's you've got an extra adventure there as well.
We planned it well, you know. We really got our timing right, but no, I'm, you know, stoked to see first and foremost what the baby is. We don't know.
Are you keeping it a mystery all the way?
Yeah.
Cool.
We've stuck it out this long, so we may as well keep it going. But no, it's exciting. You don't get too many surprises these days, and in the way that the world is now. So it's nice to have that little surprise at the end. I mean, it's going to be a surprise anyway, but
I'm sure. Yeah, life's going to be pretty different, I guess, on that side of it.
Yeah.
But then looking at racing, then like you said, you're less stressed. I don't know how much we can tell from the outside, just kind of watching you and how you ride and your career and stuff. But certainly in the last few years, you seem very zen. Also with things that people ask you about, like you just like, well, it's like this. It's not really a big deal. Leave me alone.
Yeah, kind of. You know, like I said, I think it comes down to. Just knowing your role.
Being a veteran.
Yeah, knowing your role and knowing where you sort of stand. And I'm at the point where I don't really care. You know, I have my opinion. You're asking my opinion. I'm going to give you my answer. And if it's what you like, well, that's good. If it's not, well, that's your problem. It's not mine. Like, I've got nothing, no skin off my back. I mean, you asked, and I'll tell you how I see it. And if it's wrong, then tell me why it's wrong, and I'll take that on board. But again, it just comes down to experience, and yeah, and just like I think everything ties in, like you say, with the whole family thing and the life and all that. I mean, I feel very complete in terms of where I'm at in my racing career already, and you know, there's of course a lot more that I still want to do. And a lot more.
You've not done bad though.
Yeah, yeah, done all right, and you know, definitely better than I ever had imagined.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, if you're going to sit there and say you're going to win 4
I don't know, because there are some kids who'll come out at 5 years old and be like, I'm going to beat Rossi's title count.
I know, and I was probably one of those cocky young kids, but deep down inside, you never really know how you're going to shape out in these things. And you know, there's been points in my career where I've thought, oh well, it's all over. I'll be heading home shortly, going back to a you know, a job. But to still be doing what I love, you know,
and doing it well.
A lot of years on, and yeah, to be able to be considered a veteran in this sport is amazing, and you know, just to feel the love as well. Just I think in the past couple of years, the love from the fans and so on. I think just being yourself and learning that you can sort of be yourself and people enjoy a character, and then that's who I am at the end of the day. I am an idiot and a bit of a clown, and but I'm real, and I'll happily give everyone my time, and I think people have seen that, and
yeah,
you know, it's awesome to be here.
Because that's what everyone always says as well. They don't just say that they love you, they say they love you because they can tell that you're you. Yeah.
And that's what you feel, you know, even spending the time outside now with the day champions and so on, and all those fans, you know, coming up. But it's awesome to feel like that, because I remember being one of those fans or watching, you know, the guys like Rossi and that who get mobbed, and I think that's the coolest thing ever, you know, to be able to inspire kids and push let's say the next generation on, and show them that you don't have to be a robot and, you know, be this certain way to succeed. You can be a nice guy at the same time.
Well, I think definitely proving that point valiantly. So let's talk about then, one of the things, I think it was in Jerez after you took that podium, you were, I mean, that interview you gave to Bertie, I think, in the interview set was just gold. It's just like 4 paragraphs of gold. So we were like, which part are we going to use for this? But a lot of that, again, you're talking about how, not necessarily how people doubt you, but how much you love proving people wrong and how much you love taking that success. It's something that you brought up, I think, in Assen when you won that first race in MotoGP as well in the Honda. Obviously in Ducati, especially that Motegi win was just like, today's my day. Bye, everyone. What is it about that feeling? Do you feel like you do have that something to prove, or not to yourself, just to
some people more than others I do in this sport. I don't know what it is, if it is the way that you carry yourself outside of the sport. Like you say, some kids or some guys will get up there and be like, yeah, no, I'm the best, you know, and of course this is going to happen. And then others will get up there and sort of be like, I don't really know what happened, you know, and it was a good day and I rode fantastic, but I mean, there is always a lot of criticism, and I think it comes with the territory of being one of those sort of, I don't want to say outspoken, but a little bit outspoken people, where you put yourself out there, and then of course, you know, there's a lot of this and a lot of that. There's a lot of negative and there's a lot of positive. Generally more positive than negative, but there's a lot of doubt, and I don't know, sometimes it, you know, whether it's the Australian thing coming from, you know, a lot of successful riders, you know, they've come through from Australia. The only ones that really have made it have been super successful, and all pretty much been world champions. So there's some big boots there, I think, to be able to fill, and of course there's always going to be sort of that extra incentive or extra pressure, or just extra expectation, I guess you could say, on you. But for sure, I feel like more often than not, especially now, not so much, but in the past, I had to prove myself a lot more than, say, others did to try and get that, let's say, bump up in job, or to continue with my job, or to get you know, to try and move myself up the ladder. And for sure, I mean, starting in from Moto3, you know, you're still already starting yourself on the back foot, jumping straight up, and then doing it with the open Honda.
That's what I was going to say, that like...
It's been a constant sort of working my way up the pecking order, and it's so cool to be, you know, there and challenging week in, week out, majority of the time.
And it is, and like you said, okay, maybe you've not beaten Rossi's titles, if that is something you would have said when you were 5, but you're one of only few riders who's had serious success on more than one bike. You've adapted super quick this year as well. Was that also quite satisfying? Because in pre-season, all of your interviews were like pretty much exactly the same. Just like, yeah, we're nearly there, just missing a little bit here and there. And then I feel like there was a bit of a murmur in some of the kind of press, just being like, oh no, like Jack's made a mistake, like this isn't going to work. And then on Friday in Portugal,
it was already happening as soon as I sort of signed the contract for KTM. What was it, Le Mans or wherever it was last year? It was already sort of happening, you know, oh, he'll be out shortly, you know, he'll be heading to... The comment I read all the time was he'd be heading to World Superbike. Like, that's a bad thing. I mean, those guys over there, it's a fantastic championship, and I'm not taking anything away from them at all, because what have I done in the last 5 weeks? I've sat at home at stupid o'clock and watched those races. I mean, from the other side of the world, because they're just fantastic. So they try and use that as like an insult or a way of saying, like, you know, you won't get along with it. And it's like, well, let's just give it a crack and see what happens, you know. I mean, if it is what it is. But I mean, a change was sort of what I felt I needed at the time. And at the end of the day, it's my decision and mine only. I'm going to do what I feel is best for my career and for my family's future. And that was it. And yeah, it's like you say. And then through our winter testing, you know, you could hear, oh, you know, maybe he's not getting along with the group well or whatever. But I mean, I knew as soon as I hopped on the bike, and then everything I'd sort of done to the bike throughout winter testing, or even with the one day, like, I mean, now we're so limited in terms of how much time we actually get on the bike before we go racing. So you are thrown in the deep end, especially if you're changing manufacturers and so on, because there's no time on the bike before you got to go racing again. So one day at the end of last year to trying to get a direction for the following season, or to get some parts in line, or get some which direction you want to go with the bike come February next year in November. It's kind of hard when, like, you're at Valencia, which you've been on that track on a different bike all weekend. And then what was the test on Tuesday? The track's still full of rubber, heaps of grip, times are fast, everyone's got, you know, under lap record. And I mean, I don't think it really, you know, you don't really get a clear understanding of what you actually need from the bike, because the track's in such great condition, the bike's semi-good, you feel good already because some things are translating across from what you were doing on the other bike. So, and that's another thing with the experience. It's just helped me in situations like that to not get too wound up or not focus on too many things, just sort of go through my motion and go through things that I've learned throughout the years and try to understand, and then take that to Sepang when we did at the beginning of this season. And yeah, we were able to work through it all and eventually you know, get going by the time racing started.
You seem so zen about it, but even like me watching it, I felt smug for you. Do you not just have that moment where you're like, yeah?
To a degree, but the beautiful thing about MotoGP is it'll jump back up and give you a smack. Yeah, you can never be smug too long. No, exactly. That's the great thing about this sport, is you can't be smug, because the minute you are smug, this sport will jump up and bite you. And again, it's another thing you sort of learn as you get older. You sort of understand, right, you know, don't get too high on the highs and don't get too low on the lows. Just try to keep yourself central and focused on what you're doing at the time. And
how is it then with that, with the new format that we have now? Obviously this weekend it changes for the first time back to FP1. So can't ask you about your experience of that because we don't have it yet. But sprint and that, both you and Brad and like the whole of KTM really seem like, well, this is what we're going to do, so we go out and we do that. That's it. I mean, there's no point in complaining about it, because they're not going to change it, and I think it's a fantastic change. You know, I've enjoyed going back to World Superbike, watching them the last couple of years with the sprint race and or Superpole race. And, you know, everyone want to talk about how fit these MotoGP riders are and how amazing athletes they are, and then they want to complain about doing 2 races and one's half race distance. Well, we're going out and doing that anyway in FP4, so now we get to, you know, now you do it for some we get to do it for some points, and exactly, and for an actual race, which at the end of the day we're all motorcycle riders, and at least for myself, speaking for myself, I love racing. I hate riding around by myself. I hate riding around doing laps. Did you hate that Motegi win last year then? Yeah, they're the most stressful ones. I mean, I haven't had too many of them in my life, but yeah, they're the most stressful ones. And you want to be in a race. For me personally, as a racer, that's what I love. I love racing, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy riding my motorbike and I enjoy going and riding at home or whatever. But I hate going and riding at home by myself. You make it a race. I want my friends to be there. I want somebody there to push me, and you know, you're constantly trying to one up each other, and that's the whole idea of competition. And I think, you know, getting rid of the FP4 and putting in the sprint race has been awesome, because you get 2 goes at it for one. I think you gain more information out of the sprint race than you did
FP4 anyway, because you're pinning it and you're really...
It's a similar time as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and you're stressing the tyres way more because, you know, the majority of the time you're rocking up and, you know, you've done nearly next to no laps. Even with that 1 hour session, I mean, you're trying to cram so much into that one session and then throw, you know, 2 tyres at the end of it. And at a place like Silverstone, for example, which is a long lap, you know, it's not a lot of laps in a row or consecutively. So the sprint race is like, right, we sort of know where we're at. We've got the bike sort of dialed in. We'll see how the tyres go. Here's all the horsepower and get into it. And that's basically it. So, and you know, sort of like, okay, well, that was half race distance. I understood sort of how the bike was behaving, what it was going to start doing, or what was it already doing, and you can sort of dial it back accordingly for the main race.
Okay, well, I mean, it's quite refreshing. We've had a few differing opinions on the sprint, haven't we?
I love it.
You love it, Brad loves it, Pecco seems fine with it. It's all of you who also come out of a little bit maybe over the limit race and go, yeah, that was racing, it was great.
Yeah.
And then some people maybe, you know, that's not their idea of how you race.
Yeah,
you let your feelings known in the moment with that iconic one in Jerez, where you just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I think, you know, at the end of the day, it is racing, and there will always be some form of contact. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes it's far too much, and then sometimes, I mean...
Yeah, I should say, I'm not saying, you know...
No, you know, I mean, there's a line, and when the line's drawn, then it's drawn. I mean, as a racer, you've grown up doing this for, you know, I've been doing it since I was 7 years old, whether it be road racing, motocross, whatever. And you know where the line is. You know what a hit is versus what you know, a nudge. And that's the biggest thing.
Versus, oh, I've accidentally touched you on the way in trying to make that move, versus I've come in here and been like, oh,
yeah. You're there, but I'm using you as brakes, kind of thing. So there is a line, and you know when you've crossed it deep down inside, whether or not you want to admit it. But yeah, I think there was a lot more doubters, I think, at the beginning of the sprint race era, and I think now, I feel like after that first one, I mean, I watched a video back not long ago where it was like everyone talking through their favourite sprint race. I think everybody's favourite was Portimao.
Yeah, and for us publishing that, I was like, right, guys, so you're telling us we peaked early, and we're just gonna be like, yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, it was a great one, though, wasn't it?
Yeah,
exactly. In a completely new era.
But that's why I think it was so special. It was because it was the first one. It was like, what's happening here? And everyone just sort of threw it at the wall and see what stuck.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was a good one. We've had some good ones since. We've also had the rain, maybe rain and sprint, not always the best combination, because that close racing kind of thing, you often have people like you. Obviously, Bez this year has had some impressive ones in the wet. But Silverstone then, we got to ask you, I always think of, and I'm sure it's the #1 thing you don't want me to think of.
T-Bone and Cal.
Yeah.
There it is.
It's always, and it's so unfortunate as well because of obviously your guys' relationship.
Yeah.
Everything about that situation was just like, no.
Yeah, that wasn't a great day. You know, I look back on it now, and it as bad as it is, you know, it's one of those memories that, it's bad because I know what Cal could have done on that day, and I feel terrible or feel, yeah, not great for taking that away from him, I guess you could say. You know, British Grand Prix, being wet, we know how strong Cal was in the wet, is in the wet, and, you know, I felt good, but again, young, dumb, just
I feel like he probably feels less about this now than you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that you'll never take back. But I mean, as soon as I grabbed the brakes, I knew what had happened. You know, the closing speed was way too much. Lorenzo was in front, and I was just like, oh well, I'll try and stick it up the inside. And unfortunately for Cal, he was there, and yeah, I tried my best to get it stopped. But it's one of those things. I mean, I'll never forget. I probably said this before, but I walked around the outside because you couldn't. Tried to jump start the bike and it wouldn't start, and I had to walk along the fence all the way along, and I was getting bottles tossed at the fence and all sorts.
No.
It was one of those like, oh, am I going to get out of here alive sort of moments. But you know, it was one of those things that I look back on now, and it taught me a lot. in terms of race management and so on. I mean, it wasn't easy that year with the open Honda. I think I went down the back of the back straight there, and I had like 3 bikes come past me, and of course that's frustrating. And then you're trying to pass them all back immediately with, you know, full of confidence, and yeah, it jumped up and bit me. But it was one of those big learning curves for me, or one of those big ones where you sort of sit back and take stock and understand, right, that didn't work.
It's even sweeter now then, because the British crowd definitely loves you a lot. Obviously now we're getting Cal back at Motegi, aren't we, briefly?
Yep.
And we've got Jake, Sam in Moto2, but you kind of have taken on that mantle a little bit at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's got the Aussie flag's got the Union Jack. At the end of the day, we're all just convicts out there anyway, aren't we? So we'll just, you know.
Just for the record, I didn't say that.
That's all right.
Intimate anything about that.
That's all right. My parents are both Kiwis, so I'm not a convict.
So you're just going to dump that on Australia?
Yeah,
and leave it there?
I wasn't a convict. We were moved out.
Beautiful.
We moved out there.
So that was free choice.
Yeah.
But no, it is.
Didn't get shipped out.
So, I mean, there's not too much else. I don't want to dig too deep into anything like now when we're mid-season as well. There's so much of the year still to go. But how are you feeling looking back at the first half? We've got a couple of questions from fans to finish off. But what rating would you give yourself and the progress you've made since that kind of that Friday
in Portimao
magic trick?
Yeah. I want to say a 6. I give myself a 6 out of a 10. Yeah, it's like half and half, because I was happy with, of course, great results like what we had in the sprint race in Germany, or obviously Jerez. And but then, you know, there's been some moments where in Austria, in America, sorry, in Austin, I mean, I felt really, really strong that race. And I was in the group, and then I dumped it. And then, you know, again in Assen, another weekend where things weren't, I felt really good on the Friday, and then things went awry. And then come Sunday, we managed to sort the feeling that I had with the bike out. And again, I dumped it on the first lap when I really felt like we could do something decent there. So there's been, for me personally, just a lot of what ifs, you know, like you sort of sit back and think, you know, what if I didn't? And but that's to be, let's say, expected, or you can't get too overly stressed about it. Of course, I'm taking it in and learning from it, but when you're learning a new bike and you're learning what it wants and what it's doing, and
this is what I was going to say, you've already been on the podium on it.
Yeah.
It's the 3rd different bike you've been on the podium with.
It's one of those things, you just understand it, and you know, you try and make it second nature, and the only way you're going to do that is by pushing it and understanding, okay, well, that was too much, or what did it tell me before it did that, you know, what feeling was I getting, and try to learn from that to go forward. And I feel like, you know, now sitting back, taking 5 weeks off, sort of mull it all over and digest what's happened in that first half of the season, I think it can help us in the second half of the season to first and foremost try to eliminate those mistakes and try to take benefit from it, because it's just one of those things, you know, once the bar is constantly moving, so once you're sort of here, okay, like you say, the baseline was set Friday in Portimao.
I mean, yeah, you didn't help yourself and your expectations.
Yeah, well, exactly. My expectations were here, and then of course after that your expectations immediately move. But apart from Argentina, where we had a terrible Friday and then never made it through we got the wet and so on, and I was able to build up and do a decent race on Sunday. But apart from that, we've been very competitive at every track we've been to, and again, that's already for me been a massive boost in confidence to approach a weekend. You know, at the beginning of the year, you didn't know what you're approaching the weekend like. You didn't know what you're approaching the season like. What were your expectations? And they're constantly moving. So we just keep moving that up, and yeah, just try to eliminate those mistakes and try to convert that speed or that feeling into a good result come Sunday.
And Saturday, I guess.
And Saturday, of course.
Is Saturday more like it just bets off full throttle, let's go?
To a degree, I mean.
Not, you know, either into recklessness or into not recognising it is worth points.
It is worth points, and at the end of the day, but don't get me wrong, 1 or 2 points versus like trying to go for it is always, you know what you're going to do. But come Sunday, I mean, at the end of the day, the Grand Prix is always the Grand Prix race, and that's the one that you want. The other one doesn't count as a win. That one counts as a win. Really?
So you're going on that side of the stats argument?
Yeah.
Does it even count as a win?
It's not.
It's a nice trophy.
It doesn't.
Good feeling.
Well, it's a nice medal.
Nice medal, sorry.
It's a nice medal. It's not a trophy.
Some
it's
Prosecco.
Not a win. Exactly. Yeah, but the big one's on Sunday, so that's the one you're working for. That's the 25 points are, and the big bonus is paid out.
You're like the dream, really, because you're like, no, the Grand Prix race is the important one, but I also really love the sprint.
Yeah.
It's like, thank you, great.
Well,
if we could get that on record and just put that on all the posters forever, that'd be great. So we do have, like I said, a few questions from fans. They're from Instagram. The first one is about your famous lifelong extra career as a taxi driver. And it's from Joshy Robbins. They want to know, who's the best passenger? You've had a few different ones.
I've had a few. I want to say Rins was probably the best one.
Okay, so we should also ask what qualifies as the best passenger?
Just the comfiest to have on the back.
The comfiest, okay. Not wriggling too much.
Yeah, not moving, not shaking the bike too much. I mean, anybody who's ever doubled anybody on a motorcycle knows, like, if a passenger, for example, my wife, I love her, but terrible passenger. Does a lot of moving on the back. And we're constantly having helmet clashes.
So you just like.
So I got to give her the full face helmet and I run the open face, because if she had the open face on the back, it wouldn't be great. But yeah, Rins was probably the best one, I want to say, in terms of a passenger. He was kind of good, and he kind of leant into the corners and sort of knew what we were doing.
Just classic Rins style, that's smooth,
nice and
finesse,
round, exactly.
Yeah.
Probably the smoothest I've ever been, to be honest.
So another one is from Manito9. What are you afraid of? Getting into the deep psychology, just to finish off. Mine is great white sharks, so I fear your nation a lot.
I'm alright with sharks. I'm alright with all those sort of animals or anything like that. Heights, I don't have an issue about heights. Don't get me wrong, like, I've been skydiving, I've been a lot of different things at heights, and, you get that little tingly feeling, but it's kind of a cool feeling. I like that one.
I struggle with that feeling. But on, like, man-made things, I'm fine on a cliff.
What do I fear more is probably like jellyfish or something like that. Like at home we got really poisonous jellyfish, the irukandji and box jellyfish and stuff like that, and you can't really, because they're so small, you can't see the bloody things. And many times when we're out, scuba diving or spearfishing at the reef, you're in the water there, and I mean, you're meant to run a stinger suit, not that we run it all the time, but you try to, but or even that. So that's probably more my biggest fear, because you're so far out and you're so far away from everything and you can't see it.
And that is proof that your nation is better than our nation.
What's that?
So that's the kind of stuff you take on every day. You're just complaining that it's 12 degrees instead of 20. So the final one from Ivan Kiss 87. So going back then, like you said, you got the motocross track. You've got a few kids coming over doing some laps. Have you got any plans to do a proper like racing academy, anything like that when you retire? Is it just like people you already know, help them out, or?
Yeah, no real plans in that department. Like, I mean, I love motorcycle racing, and I love, giving anybody a hand who wants a hand. I mean, if you're a good bloke or a good person, I'll give you all the time in the world, But in terms of an academy or anything like that, I can't see, first and foremost, how I could ever make it feasible in Australia, especially where I am up north. I mean, we're quite far away from everything. And I mean, especially with the way that the world is these days, it's just too much of a headache. Everyone's got a problem, everyone's got a thing. So I'm happy for my mates, for my friends, whoever. If you're a good person, I'm more than happy for you to come out and have a ride. But you start
flooded by invites.
You start inviting the masses. That's when you start having people whinging, people complaining, fighting or whatever, and it's a box of worms that you don't want to open up. I mean, I enjoy it, and my sister's got my nephew. I
was going to say, you're going to train them up.
Yeah.
What about yours?
Yeah. So, I'll get roasted over this. I mean, if I get a girl, it'll be daddy's little princess, but if I get a boy, he'll be riding a motorbike. But
you
I've
want
already
the
got...
equality of also being allowed to go and get filthy.
Yeah, but, you know, if she wants to do that, she can do that. I'm more than happy for her, but
But
if
you
she's
want
anything
to
like
give
a
her the
mother,
princess
yeah,
life.
exactly. If she's anything like a mother, she won't be doing the motorbike side of
So
things. But I mean, if she
Ruby
wants
not a
to,
big
it's
fan?
her choice. But yeah, she'll look at daddy's collarbones and his legs and his arms and so on and think, well, maybe I don't want my body to look like that all that much. But
So, and you think that a son would be like, that looks fine?
yeah, 100%. But no, so Tex is my nephew, and my sister just had another baby last night.
Oh,
Another boy.
congratulations.
So we've
Wow,
got
2 of them already on the...
2 boys ready to go. So the stadium track will get converted for them. Tex has already got his motorbike. He loves it. We go for rides every afternoon. And Hugo will be having some laps, and then we'll see what the baby Miller comes out with, and we'll hopefully be back here in 20 years' time.
With baby Miller?
With baby Miller.
Well, we'll see. No pressure.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jack. It's been a true pleasure. You've put me in a good mood again, and I feel like I know what I'm doing.
Perfect.
I hope you have a great race weekend.
Thank you.
I'm sure everyone here has more than forgiven you, as has Cal, for that one little hiccup, and I'm sure a lot of them will be cheering you on because they love you here as well. Have a good one, and yeah, hopefully catch up again soon.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.